Ladies and gentlemen, the San Antonio Spurs are 5-0 to start the season for the first time in franchise history. I want to repeat that so we can really understand what I'm saying. The San Antonio Spurs are 5-0 to start the season for the first time in franchise history. The reason I had to say it twice is because the San Antonio Spurs are one of, if not the most prestigious NBA organization. And just not in the NBA, they're one of the most prestigious organizations in all of sports. And when I say the word prestige, it ain't that they won the most, it ain't that they have the most stars. It's how they've ran, it's the class, it's the level of detail that they put into their organization and how it just always is aligned top to bottom. It is, again, royalty when we talk about sports winning and culture and different things like that. They've had 50 NBA seasons and they've made the playoffs 39 out of those 50 times. They've won 5 championships. They've had an all-time coach in Greg Popovich. They've had all-time players in David Robinson and Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and Kawhi Leonard. They've had all-time draft snipes, all-time player development. They've had an all-time eye for talent. They've been one of those organizations that could kind of rehabilitate a player's play style or, rejuvenate somebody's career. With all that said and done and all that is success in history, they have never had a 5-0 start. And this is the team that's the first team to do it. Very impressive, in my opinion. And I want to say this as well. I got a lot of stats and different things in front of me that are interesting and we'll get to. But the San Antonio Spurs were a team that most of us understood would take a jump, right? They were going to be better than last year. Another year under Vic's belt, he's going to probably take another step. And we also all had in the back of our mind, if Wemby takes this MVP step, then the Spurs are just going to be a really, really good team. And though that is the case, he has taken that MVP step, and I think he's on an MVP caliber. I think he's number one in the race right now, in like the highest betting odds or whatever to win it as of right now. It's shifted from Shea to him, but they have surprised me and a lot more people because it's not just Wemby is just dominating, and he is. But I think a lot more credit and recognition needs to go to a lot of the other surrounding pieces and just them as a team. Mitch Johnson, first and foremost, first time head coach after, obviously transitioning from Pop being the coach. He's had a hell of a start to the season. And just the team in general, they're clicking right now. And one of the things I'm going to say is there is no De'Aaron Fox, right? Like, we have to remember that. And I know a lot of people on social media, we've seen the narrative, should they trade Fox? And it's interesting and funny to kind of think about it. But in all seriousness, it's De'Aaron Fox. Like, we should talk about how good they are without him being on the floor and how scarier it could get, or more scary it could get when he returns to this team. I've told y'all in other videos, and I think even on Tee It Up, we're 4 or 5 games into the season. I'm not really locked in on offensive and defensive rating, but I will say, already to start the season, 5-0 start, the San Antonio Spurs have a top 10 offense and top 10 defense, and they have the number 1 defense. Again, I like to look at those ratings, or where somebody stands as far as defense and offense with a little bit more of a sample size, roughly 7 to 10 to start the season. But still, since we're diving in, I really want to focus on that. Top 10 offense, top 10 defense. That combination is always one that lets us know it will lead to having a successful season for a team. So they're already great in that standpoint. As far as getting deeper into some of their numbers and things that I find a little bit intriguing and that just represents the successes they're having, number one, they clean the glass. When you play against the San Antonio Spurs, they're going to dominate you on the glass, right? They are 4th in rebounds right now, averaging pretty much 50 rebounds a game as a team. They're 3rd in defensive rebounds. Or I'm sorry, 2nd in defensive rebounding at 37 a game. So almost 40 of those 50 rebounds that they average are coming on the defensive side of the glass. The reason that's important is because it's already going to be hard to score on this team. Stephon Castle on the perimeter, and then you also have Victor Wembanyama in the paint, right? And everybody else is on one accord and locked in and doing their parts on the defensive end. So they're going to give you pressure there, and it's going to be tough to score already with Vic making everybody second guess themselves and where they are and how much space and room they have. But then on top of that, they're not giving you second and third opportunities. They're going to shut you down. You're going to get one shot, one and out, and you're going to be back on defense trying to stop them in transition. I love teams that are able to take advantage of closing out the possession. That's one of the most important things you can do on the defensive end. There's no sense of locking up for 20 to 22 seconds in a possession just to give a team another added 14 seconds or another opportunity to score. That's not happening with them. So you have to come out and be ready to score the basketball on that one and only shot for most of those possessions. They're seventh in free throw attempts, right? So, like, they're getting to the line. They're going to score in transition because they're one of the top teams in block shots. And Wembanyama is a guy that can get 8, 7, 9 blocks in a game. So I love the recipe of being able to get easy buckets, right? They're also a team that is right now struggling with pull-up shooting. They're also struggling a bit with pick and roll ball handlers being able to score and add points that way. Those are some areas, even paint touches. I think they're like 20th in the NBA right now in paint touches. Those are all areas that they're struggling in, right, as a 5-0 team, but that's what makes them scary because all of those categories or ways of scoring are like legitimately tailor-made for De'Aaron Fox. And you would have to think his presence and what he brings to the basketball game would allow those numbers to at least go up marginally, even if they don't go top of the league, because this team can't be top 5, top 10 in every single category in existence. But if he can just make them go up marginally, they'll even be scarier. If they have a 6 offense right now in the entire game of basketball where everybody's numbers are inflated and everybody's scoring and doing their thing, if they're able to have this much success offensively without De'Aaron Fox, I just can't imagine what his presence would do, right? If they're taking almost 30 free throws a game without De'Aaron Fox, what does that number go to with De'Aaron Fox? Is that 35, 36 free throws a game? You know what I mean? If they're 20th in paint touches, and they're still able to score and be this productive without pull-up shooting and different things like that, without having a legitimate offensive threat in the pick and roll as a ball handler or from a ball handler perspective, what happens then? And does his gravity or his presence in the pick and roll make the rollers and Vic or Cornette or anybody else go up? Like, that just whole pick and roll game is limited right now because they don't have Fox. So I love that for them. They don't shoot too many threes, right? But when they do shoot them, they make them at a 38% clip, which is 11th in the NBA. And this is supposed to be a team who does not have, crazy shooting. Devin Vassell right now is averaging 8 3-point shots a game. I don't think anybody else in this team is shooting over more than 4 a game. And he's been lights out. He's been phenomenal for them. He's one of the guys that I think needs to be recognized, needs to be talked about in a higher light when we talk about the San Antonio Spurs. And then defensively, just some of the opponent stats and what you have to deal with when you go up against the San Antonio Spurs. Right now, they have the first, their first in points per game for their opponents. Opponents are only scoring 103 points per game against the San Antonio Spurs. Opponents are only averaging 35 rebounds a game. That's really a 15 rebound differential. The Spurs are averaging about 50 a game while their opponents are only walking away with 35. Offensive rebounds per game, 8 per game. That's second in the entire NBA. That goes to one of my first points. When you play against them, you have to have a deadly efficient offense that is going to specialize in scoring in that one and out, right? Like that's really all you're getting. Or you're going to have to be a team that is just a offensive rebounding machine like the Houston Rockets or something like that, that's playing double big or 2 7-footers or whatnot to be able to clean up the offensive glass. 2-point percentage, 46%, first in the NBA. They're only allowing their opponents to shoot 46% on 2-pointers. And overall field goal percentage, their opponents are shooting 42% from the field, which is second in the NBA. So you're not really going to have an efficient night so far against the San Antonio Spurs. They're going to find ways to exploit those strengths, and they're going to take advantage of a lot of the weaknesses that teams have. And you're going to probably be slower and easier to guard if you're like a Houston Rocket team that tries to go ultra big to maybe get some second or third opportunities. But now you're talking about having Adams on the floor at one time with Amin Thompson, and you're already not shooting a bunch of threes. Like, they're going to really make it tough for a lot of teams in out west. I can't wait to see them match up with a team like Oklahoma City Thunder just to get a glimpse of it. I know 7-game series are a lot different, but when you just have Shea, especially right now, it's going to be a little different because full throttle you'll have J-Dub. But the Thunder aren't shooting the 3 ball really crazy. And I would love to see how they can match up with iHeart and Chat front court. And Wemby got a little chip on his shoulder when it comes to Chat. That little rivalry they got going on right there is always interesting. Opponents are shooting 22 free throws a game, which is a solid number. I think that's 6 in the NBA. Opponent's second chance points, 12.6 per night. That's fourth in the NBA. Opponent's fast break points, which I think is extremely significant for them. They only give up 12 fast break points. So one of the things early on that's been a storyline or that people like to talk about, Stephon Castle is really turning the ball over at a crazy rate for the San Antonio Spurs. Again, something else De'Aaron Fox could help because he would probably take the ball out of his hands a lot. But even when they're turning the ball over, or as much as they're turning the ball over, they're only giving up 12 points in trans or on fast breaks, which is 6 in the NBA. And then opponents' points in the paint, they only allow you to score 40 points in the paint, which is second in the entire NBA. So again, when you're just looking at how they guard, when you look at how effective they are, and all of these different ways of guarding, how can a team really score? And last night was super interesting to me because the Heat are a team that's trying to push the pace. They're trying to score in transition. They're trying to catch you on fast breaks. And I thought the Heat did a really good job, especially without not having their leading scorer, Norman Powell. And I want to give a lot of credit to the Heat and a lot of credit to both teams. That was a really exciting game and matchup that I can't wait to see again. But they made it tough for the Heat during certain stretches. And, again, you credit the Heat because they stuck around, they played hard, and again, they didn't have their go-to guy or their number one leading scorer in Norman Powell. But the Heat had to make a business decision of saying, we're just going to play fast, get as many shots up as we can, and we're going to attack Wemby, when we have the opportunities to. Andrew Wiggins went at Wemby, Bam went at Wemby. Sometimes they had success, sometimes they didn't, but they didn't allow themselves to overthink it or second guess themselves, and I felt like that helped them in the long run. But again, even on a great night like that, the Spurs found a way to make things tough enough for them to come out with the win. And then when you look at the comparisons to their stats versus their opponents, so second chance points, 12 and a half for their opponents. They average 17 second chance points, which is a +5. Off opponents' fast break points, 12 per game, while San Antonio's second in the NBA at 21. That's a +9. Opponents' points in the paint only give up 40, while they average 52, which is a +12. And it's only 14th in the NBA, but it's still a +12. And then their overall net rating is almost 13.5 points per game. So they handle business. They get out in front of their opponents. They do what they got to do on both ends. They allow their defense to help them with their offense, and they love getting down in transition and running. And again, they don't shoot a ton of threes, but when they shoot them, they make them. And I always watch these games and see Stephon Castle making some big fourth quarter three for them in some form or fashion. Started off the season against the Mavs, 33-point win. At the Pelicans, overtime, 4-point win. They played the Nets, beat them by 11. Played the Raptors, beat them by 16. Beat them by 18. Played the Heat last night, beat them by 6 points. So 3 out of their 5 wins have been double-digit wins with a 33-point win and an 18-point win. So almost 2 20-point wins for them. Breaking down some of their offense and the play types, they run isolation 6% of their possessions. Not a bunch, but when they do run isolation, just like the three-point shooting, they are extremely effective. They are 100 percentile as a team in isolation scoring. They score 56% of the time when they run isolation, and they have a 1.25 points per possession, shooting at a 55% clip. So again, not a heavy isolation team, which I love the different variety and the versatility that they have in scoring and with their defense. But the fact that they are effective in it when they need to get to it is incredible. And I think that leads to the success that they have in the clutch. They're 3-0 in clutch time, and their numbers and their efficiency in the clutch is like off the charts. They have the third highest scoring frequency in transition, which they are scoring 62% of the time when they have transition looks, and they're shooting at a 76% effective field goal percent. The pick and roll, like I said, the lowest of their play type as far as scoring frequency. But again, that's not a bad thing for them because they have an all-star level point guard in De'Aaron Fox, who is going to specialize in some of that pick and roll play, and his ability and his effectiveness to drive the pick and roll ball handling numbers up and the pick and roll man numbers up, because he's just that dynamic in the pick and roll. 27% of the offense comes from spot up opportunities. They struggle a bit there, but again, hopefully they will have better numbers with De'Aaron Fox's presence there. 50% effective field goal percentage there, and their score frequency is only at 38%, which is a 27th percentile amongst the rest of the NBA. Eighth in catch and shoot 3-point percentage. They're shooting 40% as a team from three on catch and shoot opportunities. And again, we talked about it earlier. They're 27th in pull up shooting points per game. They're only averaging about 15 points per game on pull up shooting. Again, you talk about not having De'Aaron Fox. He should definitely come in and help that. And again, 20th in paint touches with about 21 per game. And again, we point that arrow to De'Aaron Fox. When they get De'Aaron Fox back, they'll have more paint touches, which will probably open up a lot more cleaner opportunities from behind the arc when they already are shooting 40% from three on catch and shoot opportunities. And then when you talk about pull-up shooting, especially in that mid-range area, De'Aaron Fox is going to get you there. And we'll see what the three-point shot is like because De'Aaron Fox can be hit or miss. But when he's hitting, obviously, on the pull-up three-point shooting, that just adds one more layer of a dynamic player. And then I'll close out with just like the way that they've been playing. You look around, I mean, Wemby's net rating is 17.5. 17.5. His on and off differential is 16.2. So when he is on the floor, he is playing at a superstar MVP level. And then especially when we talk about on the defensive side of the basketball, he is a 15.7 plus on a defensive rating. And then on off is 22.8. So he makes them almost 23 points better as a defensive player. And that's why we've talked about the Defensive Player of the Year award. Unfortunately, as long as he's healthy and playing, it's going to be tough for somebody to be able to top the impact that he has defensively, because what he does on the floor at his size is just make a lot of entire teams. We're not talking about players or anything. Their entire team is just second guessing themselves. And then offensively, to a little bit of my surprise, but also not necessarily, through the first 5 games, like, he's a plus on offense for them, but they are a bit better. They're, the on and off is negative 6.3. So they thrive and are able to still do what they need to do from an offensive standpoint, even when Wemby has to go take a break. And I think that is super big and important for them. And I hope that they're able to keep that up as the season goes, and especially when we get closer to postseason. Just real quick before we wrap up, just to acknowledge some other guys, I think you have to acknowledge the presence of Stephon Castle and what he's been able to do for this team. Now, I will say on offense, they seem to be a little bit better when he's not on the floor. Dylan Harper takes a lot of credit for that as a rookie and what he's been able to do. But I still think Stephon Castle gives them some good things on offense here and there. But obviously, majority of his value comes on the defensive end. And again, when you have him on the perimeter and you have Vic behind him, it allows him to be extremely progressive. He's extremely versatile as a defender, and he really just doesn't take any plays off. I like to think of Stephon Castle as a Drew Holiday with Jimmy Butler mixture. Like, he reminds me of both of those players being infused, and I think he's going to continue to take steps on the offensive side of the basketball. But as long as his calling card is on the defensive end, then the things that he maybe struggles at or doesn't do really well on offense, you'll be able to overlook. Especially, again, I cannot stress this enough, when De'Aaron Fox is back. When De'Aaron Fox is back, you're taking the ball out of Stephon Castle's hands a little bit more, and you're allowing him to be what he mostly was last year, which is like this point forward who is playing off of Fox and is able to cut more and maybe play in transition and have some more spot-up looks. And then also with the second unit, he can share minutes with Dylan Harper, who has also been phenomenal. And Dylan Harper, again, like, offensively, his numbers are insane for a rookie. Altogether, his numbers are insane. He does his thing. They're a +8 on defense when he's out there, almost a +9, and then they're +13 when he's out there on offense. And the difference on offense when he's on and off the court is 18.5, and that's because his decision making is really good. He's one of the guys that is getting those early paint touches, and when he touched the paint, good things are happening. He's scoring for himself, or somebody else is getting a scoring opportunity created for them. So I'm loving the start from him. And then again, to close it out, Devin Vassell has just been like elite with the 3-point shooting and being able to just score the ball for them in a lot of different ways. And his on and off numbers in every single category are just off the charts. He's a +21 when he's on the floor. Then the on and off differential is a 31 for Devin Vassell. And again, these are 5 games. They're handling business. They had a 33-point win. A lot of these are inflated, but damn it, we're going to talk about it and celebrate it right now before they go down. On the court offensively, +9. On and off differential there, +18. On the court defensively, a +12.5. On off 13.4. Devin Vassell deserves some love. And then Keldon Johnson has been a monster for them on the offensive glass and just rebounding. They got proper vets in Luke Cornett, Harrison Barnes, McLaughlin. I love this team. I like what they have going on. I'm super excited to see Fox whenever he's able to get back on the floor for them. And again, they're extremely young. They're doing this at a young age with a young team. This was supposed to be next year. And the fact that they're doing it now, I think sets them up to be, like a curveball to the Western Conference. This is a year where a lot of hype and recognition and attention went to the Houston Rockets for what they did, acquiring Kevin Durant and with the offseason that they had. Obviously, kind of take a step back after the Fred VanVleet injury. This is also a year where it was like, man, the Thunder are just that good and that dominant. They'll just run through everybody. And then the Nuggets with their addition, again, it's just like those are the teams. The Spurs are supposed to take a jump and maybe make the playoffs finally, but they are looking like a team that's not only just going to make the playoffs, but in the first playoff appearance of this regime, they're going to be able to make some noise. This is not a team that I would personally want to have to game plan for on either end, offensively and defensively, for 7 games. They can take you out defensively, and then offensively, Victor Wembanyama is a guy that on any given night can put up 33 points, 20 rebounds, 7 assists, 8 blocks, and 2 steals. Right? He can block a shot, get the ball down on isolation in 2020, hit a step back 3 at 7-5. And again, this is the version we haven't seen with De'Aaron Fox. The NBA and the league should take notice, should be put on notice, and they should start preparing. It's about to get more scarier. I'm Pee Wee the Plug. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I will see y'all again this week or maybe tomorrow. There's a lot of basketball to talk about. This is the place you want to be all season long. I'm out. Peace.